Welcome back, everybody, to another Toolbox Extra on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with this week's Toolbox guest, but as always, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that these are all great companies for athletic directors and leaders. You should be using them. So I want you to take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our Toolbox Extra guest, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to thank our good friends at Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Tables and Video Boards. Go to their website and schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably one of the best equipment purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive Indoor Score Table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to thank Huddle. You know, as a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. Our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Go to huddle.com. Join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We want to say thanks to Booster Hub, one of our new sponsors. You need boosters that can deliver results, not create headaches. And Booster Hub takes a weak system that can sometimes lose track of volunteer turnover and turn it into a smooth running operation. Booster Hub's the #1 software for booster clubs, and you really should check it out. Sponsorship payments, meal fees, concession sales now flow through one secure system. And when volunteers do change, nothing falls through the cracks. Funding stays strong, the fraud risk stays low, and your community stays engaged. Give your boosters the platform they need to truly support your athletes. Go to boosterhub.com and don't forget to mention the podcast. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Beacon Creative and Wall of Fame. Now, Wall of Fame has been helping schools bring their legacy to life for a decade, but Beacon Creative is a new content creation service that's going to take your data and turn it into compelling stories that will then let you put it up on your social media platforms. Go to Beacon Creative, check things out. In fact, I want you to email John Townsend. You can do that at John, John, at beaconwalloffame.com. Check out Beacon Creative and Vital Signs Wall of Fame. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Hometown. Hometown continues to be a game changer for schools with their solutions that include things like, well, digital ticketing, of course, but how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction? The list just goes on and on. Go to hometown.com. They're going to show you how to save time, how to raise more money, and how to bring your community together. Whether you're an AD, a coach, even a principal, Hometown is going to make your life easier. That's hometown.com. Speaking of home, we want to thank Home Campus. Home Campus is an administration software package that you're going to use every single day. Scheduling, rosters, results. Their eligibility and clearance platform alone is a game changer. Go to Home Campus for more information. That's homecampus.com. And as always, don't forget to mention the podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant athletic director, along with thousands of others, got his master's through the Ohio program, and it was a great experience. And while they were earning their degree, they also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to thank our friends at Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru. Whether you're looking for solutions for your school district, your athletic department, or more, Gipper's suite of fast and easy products has all the tools you need to make your organization stand out. It's professional graphic design made easy. Go to Gipper.com for more information. And finally, we want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your student athletes, your coaches, how about your parents, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that connects you with your stakeholders. The website is athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. And as always, don't forget to mention you heard about it on the podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another segment of the Toolbox Extra on the Educational AD Podcast. We've got somebody I can call a very good friend on as our guest today. He's been on the podcast before. If you missed our interview a while back with Doug Loftus, you need to go back in our archives and check it out. Doug has a tremendous background as a leader, as an educator, as a coach. He was a college athlete. He was a college coach. Spent most of his career as a very successful school administrator. And now, I don't know if this is chapter 3 or chapter 4, he is one of the go-to, and I mean go-to on a national level, public address announcers for a number of sports. He works at our state track meet here in Florida. He's done SEC championships. But Doug Loftus, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thank you so much, Jake. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the time. So, yeah, I'm so blessed to be here and to talk to you more about leadership and how leadership and athletics are related, and how it can be effective if it's done correctly. And I know that the folks that are listening are thinking, well, what does Doug Loftus know about leadership? And I can tell you that it's not the Doug Loftus show by any means. It's a matter of learning from people that I've had the fortunate opportunity to learn from, and also to work with. And one thing I can share about leadership, and it's this: one of your guests happened to make a beautiful comment, and that was about having some grace, showing some grace and showing some forgiveness on who you are as a leader, because we do make mistakes, and we do have, the opportunity to fix those mistakes, but we have to show grace and we have to show forgiveness, because we're not perfect by any stretch. So my expertise, as a leader, even though it's vast, and even though I still am involved in the leadership role at the school that I'm at, doesn't mean that I am the ultimate expert, because I'm still learning, even though I'm in my 60s. And even though I still have a little bit of juice left in me, it's so vital that I get to learn from others younger than Doug Loftus, younger in terms of 20 years younger, because I get the opportunity to understand more about the culture, the climate, and the aspects of leadership. So blessed to be here, Jake. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Looking forward to our dialogue. So, yeah.
Well, again, you and I were talking before the show. We interview, we call it the Educational Athletic Director Podcast, and we have ADs, we have coaches. Certainly you check those boxes in your career. But I think the underlying foundation, if there is one, of our podcast is leadership in its many forms. And I think the value that it provides to all involved, the AD, the coach, the principal, the student athlete. So I'm always fascinated by people's different takes on leadership.
I do appreciate that. So let me give you an example of what I saw 2 weekends ago, and that was at the World Cross Country Championships. And, there's so many factors and so many variables involved when it comes to a world stage. And Tallahassee happened to be the host of the World Cross Country Championships. And one of the things that I noticed is that there were so many pieces to this puzzle that had to be put together prior to the actual meet, that I thought, wow, how many folks were involved in this process, from the organization to putting together the course, to finding out who the athletes are, how the security is going to look, because there were 52 countries that happened to come on board and race that weekend. So you can only imagine all the pieces to this puzzle had to be put together prior to the event. And as I walked around the course, and I had the opportunity to speak to the Leon County sheriff, I also spoke to Sebastian Coe, who is the world athletic
Oh, wow.
president, and all of them were just so impressed with what was put together in Tallahassee. And I just was reminded about how many times that I had to rely on people when I was a principal at a high school to get this particular project underway or to help students become better, in their reading skills or math skills, and how many people I had to trust and rely. But this was such a bigger scope, a bigger stage, that over 10,000 people showed up for this event. And again, thinking about all the different aspects, the nuances, everything that happened to be displayed, there was a risk. There was a risk that Leon County and the city of Tallahassee took, and that risk paid off. Didn't have any issues whatsoever in regards to the travel, security issues, anything, at least to my knowledge. So many people were involved in this particular one day event that I was quite impressed with how the leadership of the city, the county, the World Athletics Association, how they were able to help out and contribute. But overall, I just thought, wow, how many people were involved? How many people had to rely on others to make this thing a success? So being a leader, I think one of the most important things that you have to understand is that you have to depend on others that can help you and help others become better in their craft. So yeah, that's one salient example I can share with you, recent example that I can share with you regarding how leadership can be effective and how it works based on relying on others to help you.
Yeah, and again, you've been involved in a number of, let's say big events, NCAA championships, state championships, now the world championships. Did you notice any similarities from, I guess, maybe an organizational or leadership perspective at this championship venue that, maybe you can pass on to our ADs that are listening, how they can maybe put that particular tool or tools in their toolbox?
So that's a great question. So one of the things that I noticed when I was up in Tallahassee for the World Championships, that the preparation for the World Championships was immense. You could tell, you could feel it from the banners that were put up all around the course. I mean, who did that? Who was able to, put the banners up on the course? I mean, that was in itself a feat. That was just a huge portion of what I saw. Similarities, I could say that the preparation of the World Championships compared to, say, the NCAA championships are quite similar, because there are so many hands that are involved when it comes to putting on such a huge competition like the World Championships or the NCAA. So I noticed that there weren't too many people sitting idly by the sidelines. They were definitely working even up until the start of the race. So the similarities that I saw was that it was just a constant motion of people moving and making sure that everything was intact before the races began. So that was a similarity that I saw between like the NCAA championships to the World Championships. And I could even trickle that down to the state meet, where, as you know, Jake, there's always people moving and making sure that the events are run smoothly, that we're not behind schedule. And especially when you have, parents that are coming up from all over the state of Florida, they don't want to be waiting in the stands for the next event when we can have people, getting the events rocking and rolling. So with the World Championships and with the NCAA championships and even to the state meets, the one common thread that I happened to see was that there was a lot of people moving, even though the meet and even though the preparation was set, there was still some little things that had to be done so that the meet would run smoothly. So yeah, that's the one thing that I saw, that there was no one was sitting by the sidelines. People were moving quickly to make sure that the meet was a success.
Yeah. And again, that's a result. That doesn't happen by accident. That's a result of the
Right.
leadership that you're alluding to. Now,
Yep.
most of the time when I see you, you're, the public address announcer and you're, explaining everything to everyone and just doing a wonderful job. At the Worlds, you had a different role. You were working as an on-site official for the event. I know one of the things that you really take pride in and you do such a great job with when you are announcing is incorporating the athlete and getting them to share their experience. Did you get a chance to, I guess, observe the athlete experience at all at the Worlds from your position as an official this year?
Yeah, I sure did. And so another situation that occurred when I was at the water hazard, I guess you can call it the water hazard. Um, I noticed that the athletes, especially from the African nations like Uganda and Kenya and Ethiopia, um, the athletes were literally talking to each other, helping each other out, the teammates, so to speak. And I thought, wow, this is so cool that they're working as a team because they know how important it is to get that low score, that low stick, so to speak, in cross country. And so when they were running through the water pit, they were still talking, even though that I was getting splashed and I was soaking wet, which was awesome. But the athletes were still talking to each other, trying to encourage each other to get through the obstacles. And by the way, didn't notice this in the past, but I noticed that in the African nations like Kenya and Ethiopia, um, there is a sense, there's a culture that when the athletes are racing, yes, they're also hoping to get that low score as a team, but the those guys are dogs. They are out there to win, the prize. There's individual, prize money as well. So yeah, they're helping each other out, but at the end of the day, they're also looking at it from the standpoint of, this is a good little, cabbage that I can take home with me to make support my family. So there's that aspect when it comes to, the international athletes. I only wish that I had the opportunity to have like one-on-one conversations with the athletes, but the security was so tight that once the athletes were done, they were sent over to the media tent or to the rehab tent to get whatever they needed to get. So that was the only thing that I wish I had the opportunity to talk to the athletes afterwards. But you know, at the with that being said, I just was fortunate to be there and have the opportunity to experience what it was like to be at an international cross country competition where the athletes are literally helping each other out in the race.
Oh wow, that's cool to hear, even at that level.
Right.
You mentioned earlier to me, and I think you mentioned it during our interview so far. You threw a name out there, Sebastian Coe. People of our age that are track or cross country geeks, we certainly know who Sebastian Coe is. Um, Great, Hall of Fame, if you will, runner from England, world record holder. I'm guessing gold medalist too at some time. What was that
Right.
like to have a conversation with, I mean, truly a legend in track and field and running?
Oh, I was like a little kid, I was all giddy because of the fact that he was standing right next to me, and I asked him. I said, "Mister," I did not say Mister Coe. I said Sir Sebastian Coe
Sir,
because he
yes,
is a
yes.
knight. Um, Sir, right? Because he's been a knight now for 23 years. The Queen of England happened to give him that prestigious honor. So I went up to him like a little teenage kid. I asked him. I said, "Sir Sebastian Coe, would it be okay if I take a picture with you?" And he said, "Sure." He was so polite, so nice. But he was an absolute stud on the track. I mean, like you said, Jake, he was a world record holder in the 800 meters at 141.73, if I'm not mistaken. That was his, or 141.71. But anyway, he was the world record holder in the 800 meters. And here I am, a 63-year-old man getting all giddy about meeting my idol. When I was in high school, I had a poster of Sebastian Coe in my room. And I thought, wow, this is the guy that I want to be when I grow up. And even though I wasn't even close, to getting to his times, just meeting him for the first time at my age was an absolute thrilling experience. And he was such a great guy, just a real true ambassador to the sport. He wasn't standoffish. He mingled with the crowd, and which was nice to see because he didn't have the airs about him. He definitely was. He felt like he was one of us, and that was neat. That was a great experience.
You and I both know what a great venue, Appalachia Regional Park is for cross country. Obviously, this is probably the biggest event as far as athletes and fans. How did the venue handle that moment?
So it goes back to that preparation, right? With the law enforcement being present, with the city being present, Visit Tallahassee was ubiquitous. They were everywhere. You could see that they were hands on, and with parking and with security and how the fans were able to get in, it was seamless. No complaints, not from what I've heard from the fans getting into the park. And as you know, Jake, there's plenty, ample parking at that area, at that particular park. So in terms of parking, yeah, I'm sure that some people had to walk a good distance to get to the actual starting line. But in terms of, complaints or anybody, saying, oh my gosh, this could have been handled better, I did not hear anything whatsoever. On the contrary, there are people that came up to me and said, boy, this is so nice to have a meet where we felt safe. There wasn't any, protests that were happening. Because as you know, in an international meet, there's always that political undercurrent that happens to, be present. But none appeared, which was nice. So there were people that were patient, people that understood that the parking was going to be maybe a little bit a ways away from the actual start of the race. But the people that were there understood that, when you have a big meet like this, the World Athletics Cross Country Championship, people I think, were prepared enough to understand that they had to walk a little bit of a distance to get to the race. But overall, fantastic, just a fantastic experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. The political potential for political protest or whatever, because again, this was the World Championships. Did you get a feel from the crowd, from the spectators? Was it an international audience? Did you get a feel for that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it's funny you mentioned that because when I was working at one of the stations, during the race, I kept seeing so many flags from Kenya to England to Ethiopia to France. There were flags waving all over the place from the spectators because they brought their flags with them to show their pride, to show their nation's pride. So that was kind of fun to watch, especially Kenya. I don't think I've ever seen so many Kenyan flags in one location. And of course, as you know, Jake, Kenya happens to be well known for their distance running, and it's a passion. And so when you see the different countries converge into one location, especially in a small town, well, not so much of a small town of Tallahassee, but a town like Tallahassee,
Sure.
it's almost surreal. It's surreal to see that when you think, okay, when you're talking about an international competition, you think of like Tokyo, Paris, London, Los Angeles, and the Olympics. But Tallahassee, wow, and again, it goes back to that, all the folks that happen to be a part of this puzzle, they put it together. The leadership and all was quite evident, and to see all the spectators from different parts of the world come to watch their favorite athletes compete was extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, again, tremendous experience there, and you mentioned that there's a chance the Worlds might be coming back.
Right. So based on the conversation that I've heard, and this is a media outlet, Sebastian Coe made a comment saying that he would like to put a bid in for the 2028 World Cross Country Championships to be back in Tallahassee and perhaps make it a permanent site for the World Cross Country Championships. And Sebastian Coe, I believe, was quoted that Tallahassee is the capital of cross country running. So, when you think about that coming from the World Athletics president, that says a lot. And he does have some pull, being the president, that I'm sure that he can be able to assuage or persuade the members of the World Athletics Committee to have the meet back in Tallahassee in 2028. That would be awesome. I hope I can have that experience again of being back up there in Tallahassee to experience something that I experienced 2 weeks ago.
Boy, that's a pretty strong endorsement, as you said, the president of World Athletics. Doug, I'm going to ambush you here a little bit.
Sure.
You and I were both recently at the Florida Athletic Coaches Association Winter Clinic. My lovely bride Jan and I were presenting a workshop, and you were also there picking up a piece of hardware. Can you share with our listeners that award that you were presented with?
Thanks, Jake. Well, this is kind of a funny story. Now and then I check my emails and I look to see which emails are spam, which ones I can just throw away and trash it. And this one email popped up, and I'm thinking, this must be another spam. So I looked at it and read it, and I thought this has to be a joke. And I don't know exactly the format or what took place, but evidently I was selected to be not selected. I guess I was selected in a way to be recognized for my years of service as an announcer for Florida track and field at the Hall of Fame ceremony. So again, looking at the email, I'm thinking this is definitely not for me. So I made the phone call to the person who sent me the email, and I asked this person. I said, "Is this a joke? I mean, let's be serious here, because I don't know anything about what's going on." And the gentleman said, "Doug, just read the email through and through. Just read it all the way through," which I did. And then I realized, wow, what an honor. And I was quite taken aback, almost to the point of just being emotional. Like, wow, I can't believe that someone who even recognized, a guy like me, that really enjoys the sport, but I wasn't expecting anything whatsoever to be inducted or to be recognized, for my contributions in track and field. And that's not, if you look around, my little office, I don't have a love me wall. I don't have that. I don't have plaques and stuff like that. So that's not my thing. But it's such an honor to be recognized and to acknowledge those that have helped me along the way. You, in particular, Jake, you and Jan have been such great friends, and I do appreciate the fact that you brought this conversation up. But again, that I was not expecting this whatsoever, and to be inducted into the Hall of Fame is just a true blessing and an honor. And if it wasn't for my wife Tammy, who has been just an absolute just amazing throughout this this process. Not ordeal. I don't think it's so much of an ordeal, but the process of just traveling to different parts of the country and announcing different meets. I just can't say enough about how wonderful my wife and my family. I'm blessed. I'll leave it at that.
Well, it was so cool to be able to be there and be part of the audience as you were receiving that award. And again, you talk about announcers. As a coach, it's kind of an afterthought, but as an AD, you understand and value the importance of a great announcer. Can really make or break your event. You don't want people up in the bleachers or in the stands going, God, who is that person? And and a lot of times would they just shut up? And you do such a great job of, you tell the stories, you weave the adventure, you kind of bring the audience into the races and into the events at track and field. I already mentioned how you do such a great job of allowing the athletes their moment in the sun to, what were you thinking while you were running, and that sort of thing. And not everybody does that. Not everybody can pull that off the way that you do. Again, you're such a pro. And, when we show up at a meet, we always go, oh, wow, everything's good. Doug is going to be the announcer. So, thanks for all you do to help make track and fields and cross country such a great sport.
Well, I'm going to throw it right back at you, Jake, because you and Jan and all those that I've worked with over the years have made the track and field events so smooth. And I even tell, people that are in my circles, that track and field is a great sport as long as you have great officials. And I mention you and Jan constantly to people, saying that you are perhaps you too are perhaps the best pole vault officials in the nation. And I see that because I've been to all parts of the country, and I've seen pole vault officials that have um, they're decent. I mean, I'm not going to say anything negative about any pole vault officials, but you take it one step further by getting to know the athletes, talking to them, making them feel at ease. Especially when I saw you at the NCAA championships, you were working with the athletes up at UNF, and you were telling them it's okay. You have that demeanor about you that makes the athletes feel comfortable. They don't feel threatened. They don't feel intimidated. Um, Even though you're a big dude yourself and you happen to have that presence, but you don't come across as that type that makes the athlete feel intimidated or feel scared. So back at you, my friend.
Oh, wow.
Back at you.
Again, you're very kind. I think it's safe to say that we both, and putting Jan in there too. We all
No,
enjoy
for
what
sure.
we do. We have fun. We want to make sure the athletes have fun. Yeah, we're officials. We're going to make sure it's fair and square and all that. But hey, let's have some fun while we're here. Okay.
Exactly.
You know, Doug, you are such a great resource for our listeners. And again, listeners, if you missed Doug's interview from a while back, I really encourage you to go back. It's in our Spotify archives. It's in our YouTube archives. Go back and check it out. But as an athlete, as an elite athlete, as a college coach, and as a longtime award-winning, high school administrator, you have such a great toolbox yourself that you very willingly share with others. If one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain a little bit more, or just add you to their network, what's the best way that our listeners can connect with Doug Loftus?
Sure. I can give you my email address. So my email address is dloftus. It's D as in dog and Loftus, Loftus dloftus800 at gmail.com. So dloftus800 at gmail.com.
Okay. And Doug's also on LinkedIn. You can connect
Yes.
with him that way as well. Doug, my friend, always great to spend some time with you. Looking forward to seeing you at some of the Gainesville indoor meets. And as our outdoor season takes shape, we'll probably see you at a couple of track meets this spring leading up to the state championships.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing everyone indoors and out. And Jake, again, thanks to you and Jan for making this a possibility to have us speak about leadership, about athletics, about the toolbox, and everything that you can disseminate to maybe new athletic directors, new coaches, folks that if you're not aware of this particular podcast, do so, because there's some great information. I learned so much from others listening to this podcast that I've become, in my own opinion, I've become better, not only as a leader, but also as a person, because I'm able to understand more about, leadership, and also about what it's like to, to be imperfect. And I think that's important, to show some grace about who you are, forgive yourself, because we will be making mistakes, but at the same time, grow and learn from those mistakes.
Wise words. Thanks again for sharing. We want to say thanks to our listeners, too, for tuning in. And just a reminder that we upload the Zoom recordings of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do the Toolbox Extra just about every week and just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Toolbox Extra on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Before we go, of course, we want to give a shout out one more time to our great sponsors. Let's say thanks to Home Campus, the platform you're going to use every day. Go to homecampus.com. Beacon Creative Wall of Fame. Let them help you bring your legacy to life. Want to thank Booster Hub, the #1 booster club software program. You'll find them at boosterhub.com. Athletic surveys by LifeTrack. If you're not using a survey to take the pulse of your parents, your student athletes, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Huddle. I used it as a football coach. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com for more information. Hometown, whether it's ticketing, fundraising, website construction, or more, you'll find out everything you need to know at hometown.com. Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Check out Ohio University. And Gipper. Turn yourself into a social media marketing guru. Go to Gipper.com for more information. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.